Awesome. So appreciate everybody coming. I will warn you, there's a lot of content here. But the goal of today is I'm going to open the fire hose a bit purposefully because I want to kind of give you an overview of what we have in store. I think there's a lot of value that you'll get from some of the new offerings. What I highly recommend is as you hear things that may be of interest, so different services, feel free to jot them down, write them in the chat, or either write them down on the side and send it to Jeremy afterwards. There's some ideas that we have to bring, some turnkey solutions in front of you all, as well as to other venues. So we're looking to sort of understand the interest. So again, it is a fire hose chat, but I promise there'll be a lot of interesting takeaways. So quickly, this just gives an overview of the areas that were covered for the meet for reInvent itself. So as you can see, we made a lot of changes across pretty much every domain you could imagine within the portfolio. So let's just go ahead and jump in. And purposefully, I did omit some slides because, again, this is over 100 slides. So I'll focus on the things that I feel like are the biggest bang. And if there's anyone that wants to see everything in totality, I'll be sure to send it afterwards. So let's go ahead and start with compute. So first thing is, for those who don't know, we have a service called Outposts. This is for customers that want to run AWS infrastructure in their data center. So let's just assume you have some, data compliance restrictions of it has to be within your facility. We now have the support for 1U and 2U deployments, which are very small deployments of Outposts. So typically Outpost was for big enterprises, but this is now an offering for remote locations, branch locations, and also factory floors. So for manufacturing customers, again, this would be a great value add. From an EC2 standpoint, we've added a number of different instance types. I won't go over them in detail, but here they are. The main gist here is there's been a lot of increase in network speed, as well as bandwidth from an EBS perspective. So for workloads that are handling a lot of batch, we've been taking a lot of feedback and we've been incorporating that with these new instance types. Red Hat OpenShift on AWS. So Red Hat and OpenShift has collaborated since 2008. We've now expanded on that. So we've created a managed offering for customers that are running OpenShift now. So any applications that you may have that are using OpenShift APIs, you can now bring that to AWS in a managed offering, making it easier for you to continue to run them as you would on-prem, but having the ability to leverage the managed offering, which makes it a lot more easier from an administration perspective, right? Without changing your application at all. And just making the experience streamline more with the AWS console. So again, another value add for customers running Red Hat OpenShift. This is a big one. So Ec2 Mac Instances, a lot of people have been excited about this one. So for customers who are doing a lot of development with Xcode IDEs, typically if you're doing iPhone development, iPad, Mac, Apple Watch, Apple TV. So when you're getting into the digital space, we now have support to run Mac instances with Mac on EC2. It supports Mojave and Catalina versions. And right now, I think the configuration is a 12 by 32. So it's a pretty strong VM. But again, this is a very powerful offering for anyone developing with iOS. And this is available in the following regions. Again, same setup as a regular EC2 instance, but you have the Mac experience. So this is a very, very popular one with customers now. All right, so we now have another offering, local zones. So for those who don't know, local zones is a special type of deployment that places compute and storage databases closer to a large population. And I'll give you an example. So let's just assume that there's a gaming event, Fortnite, or a media event. You don't want to have your resources deployed in a region. Local zones give you the ability to have a special deployment that puts it closer to your user activity. So this is very good for like New Year's events, or if there's just a big event you're preparing for, we do have support to place infrastructure closer to your event to ensure the lowest latency as possible. And this is just some more data. I already talked about use cases. Great for machine learning use cases, video streaming, gaming, and as well as media. All right, so that was compute. That was the highlights for compute that I felt like would be interesting. Let's go into storage. This storage will be really quick. I personally am not a storage fan, but there are some good updates that we have. So S3 now supports strongly consistent reads. So what this means is that now you don't have to put your data in a platform like DynamoDB, Redshift, etc., that has that out of the box. You can now use S3 and it supports strongly consistent reads. So this will really help with big data workloads, analytic workloads where you need data integrity, but you want to take advantage of the cost of S3. And this is already included with no extra cost. We also have support for multi-destination replication. So now you can fork updates from a bucket to multiple buckets, right? It's not just a one-to-one. So really helping customers implement true DR or really intricate DR strategies, as well as data sharing and replication. We also have bi-directional replication. So this can be really interesting to sort of simulate, sort of a mock database, if you will, because S3 does support file structures. You can really use this interest in a lot of interesting ways, maybe as a shared file system, where you can have two buckets that stay in sync bi-directionally, right? And you can, again, take advantage of the low cost of S3 in this scenario. And again, this is with no extra cost. And another key one is the storage lens. So we have the dashboard where you can understand your usage and activity trends, cost, and security across S3 buckets now. So you don't have to go in the console, look at the settings. We now roll that up into a dashboard where you can easily see the collection of S3 buckets and their configurations. Talked about strongly consistent reads, won't drown the horn on that. But again, this is great for data lakes, big data applications, requiring access to an object immediately after a write. And again, this is already out of the box. So now you can just expand on use cases for S3. So EBS is the quickest one I have. Nothing more but just upgrades to types of EBS volume. So we now have GP3 as opposed to GP2. 20% lower cost. You get a lot more performance from an IOPS perspective, as well as bandwidth, regardless of the size, as well as our IO2 EBS volumes as well. More IOPS, higher durability. So again, more performance for customers. So again, if you're using the earlier version, highly recommend you try the newer version. It's cheaper, highly performant. All right, networking. So for all the networking gurus, the networking administrators, a couple of updates for you. The biggest one that I love is the VPC Reachability Analyzer. So customers have been given feedback that looking at cloud VPC flow logs and things of that nature, it gets really cumbersome when trying to understand why they can't reach certain pieces in their VPC. So the VPC Analyzer now allows you to troubleshoot, and it provides a graphical interface where you can look at next hops, right? So now you can sort of see graphically the communication paths to certain resources within your environment. So elastic network interfaces, which essentially are, could be a virtual machine, it could be Ec2 instance, it could be an RDS database, or a VPC endpoint, a gateway, or even across VPC communication. The VPC Reachability Analyzer will allow you to validate that communication is properly configured. So again, production troubleshooting became a lot easier, and the network administrators can rest easy. Another big one is a Transit Gateway Connect. This can easily allow you to extend an SD-WAN appliance from on-prem to AWS using Transit Gateway Connect. Oh, sorry about that. Using Transit Gateway Connect, and it uses standard protocols like GRE and BGP. So again, making it easy to populate those IP address spaces into the cloud. And another big one is the EC2 network performance metrics. So when you think about the allowances that you have for certain resources like bandwidth, packets per second, connections tracked, it's hard to sort of, for customers sometimes, to collect those metrics in CloudWatch. So now we give you those metrics out of the box. So you'll sort of, now you'll know when your resources are approaching that limit threshold. And that can either be a trigger to upscale your resources, right, to sort of give you a proactive approach to make sure your application does not have any negative impact. So the analyzer, we talked about that. Skip over that, but again, troubleshooting and production, this is going to be huge. I think this is going to be one of the biggest benefits for anyone, even in development, just getting comfortable using understanding the communication within your VPC. Talked about that one. Okay, moving along. Let me check the time. Okay, we're good. So management and governance. AWS Proton. I like this one. Proton is a fully managed application deployment service for containers and serverless applications. So think of it this way. When you deploy serverless and containerized applications, there's sometimes confusion around the entire pipeline, right? You have a platform team that develops the pipeline. You have development teams that want to leverage the pipeline, but it's hard to wrap that entire process with these types of deployments. So Proton is now a fully managed deployment service. So now platform teams can easily work in conjunction with development teams to author a pipeline, and Proton is now going to wrap that entire process. So now it's more of a self-service approach with how developers can onboard serverless applications as well as containerized applications for standard deployments, right? The keyword standard. So your governance team will be very satisfied knowing that there's consensus behind how quickly and how agile you can be while still being innovative and safe in the cloud. So again, streamlined deployment. You can set guardrails, increase developer productivity, and it's available in pretty much all the common regions that you would be operating in. All right, another one, Systems Manager, Change Manager. So Systems Manager, if you don't know, is a tool that allows you to manage your infrastructure in AWS. So patching and other administrative tasks. Now, Change Manager allows you to simplify how you can request and approve and implement changes. So think about the way you do it on-prem. You may put in a ticket. You may have some way of tracking configuration changes. Now we implemented that with Systems Manager. So now you can sort of have more comfort with managing changes that someone may author to your environment, right? And this also provides a lot of value from an auditing standpoint and reporting, and it reduces the risk of disruption or downtime, right? Because you can sort of be ahead of the curve and knowing what this change may and how this change may impact your environment. And we also have some predefined change management run books that we're providing out of the box, sort of to help customers get started. And we're also always looking for feedback. So for all of those who may have some requests, we're always looking for any customer feedback. The next is Fleet Manager. So Fleet Manager is very interesting. So Fleet Manager allows you to do administration tasks with EC2 instances, Windows, Mac, and Linux without having to connect into the server. So you can, really makes it easy using private connectivity, where you can do file system exploration, log management, Windows registry options, and user management without even needing to connect into the server, right? So using private backend networking, we're able to give you that connectivity and allow you to see your fleet and removing that heavy lifting of just connected into a server, right? So just making it easy for customers to do what they really came to do. So now we'll talk about Lambda. It's a couple of changes with Lambda that I think really beneficial for those moving into serverless. So let's see, we actually now build Lambda in 1 millisecond intervals instead of 100 millisecond intervals. So most customers already see Lambda as maybe a $1 a month bill, even if they're doing a lot of development, because the free tier allocation is so high. But now we've decreased the billing to 1 millisecond. So even once you pass that threshold, now you're going to be charged even less for running Lambda functions. We also, let's see, we have a couple of updates on here. Code signing is pretty important. So for customers that want added security with making sure that the right code is running within the managed version of Lambda, because again, Lambda runs in a managed AWS account. We also support code signing. So that way you can rest assured that the right code is running for that particular thread of Lambda. You can now also change memory by 1 megabit. So at first there was, there were hops that you had to jump through. I forget the configuration, but now we've made it more fine-grained. So you can fine-tune your Lambda function a lot more fit for purpose with the granularity that we now provide. Another big one is that customers that run Docker can now run images in Lambda up to 10 gigabits in size from ECR or Docker Hub. So let's assume that you're using Docker internally at your company. You want to move to serverless, but you don't really have the, you don't want to change the model of deployment. You could author those images in Lambda and we'll run it in Lambda. So you can keep the exact same approach with how you author your images, and you can just run those in Lambda, right? So this is really going to help customers take advantage of the benefits of serverless, being able to scale without having to fully accept the development of coding natively in Lambda, right? You can bring your containers. We also can support more RAM and CPU for Lambda. So instead of 3 gigs of RAM, the limit is now 10 gigs, and this is per function per invocation. So remember, Lambda is very is meant to be very nimble. You don't want to build a monolith. You want to build very fit for purpose functions, but each function can now can support up to 10 gigs. So for big data workloads, machine learning workloads, batch inference workloads, you can now rest assured that you can still take advantage of Lambda without having to move to a different paradigm. All right. So let's talk a little bit about machine learning. There's been a lot of changes here. Sagemaker has been getting a lot of investment over the last 2 years. So if you didn't already know, we created an IDE called Sagemaker Studio. Now, Sagemaker Studio is similar to any other IDE that you use for any other development purposes, like a JetBrains or Eclipse or Visual Studio, but this is built for the data scientists, right? Now, within Sagemaker Studio, we have support for what we call Sagemaker pipelines. So you can build and create fully managed CI/CD pipelines for machine learning, data exploration, data experimentation, model tuning, training, and deployment. You can also share these workflows. Now, we provide templates out of the box to give you a full end-to-end model build to model deployment pipeline. And we also chunk them up into phases, and those are already available in the Sagemaker Studio console. I just gave a demo earlier this morning. I recommend any customer leveraging Sagemaker notebooks that you move into the Studio version. I'm sure your data scientists will appreciate that. The Data Wrangler is also available. This allows you to handle ETL for SageMaker or for machine learning workloads, and it supports 300 built-in transformations already. So when you're thinking about data cleansing, data selection, exploration, and visualization, we already have over 300 ways to meet those needs out of the box with no coding. So this is a very easy way for data scientists to stay away from custom development and leveraging managed offerings to be able to do their job faster. Feature Store is also available. Feature Store allows you to store and update, retrieve, and share features. So imagine as a data scientist, you're doing your pre-processing, your data scrubbing, you come up with features for a project, you can now publish them in a feature store and share them across accounts. And you can persist them and make versions of them. So that way you don't have to keep them within a notebook environment, a Jupyter notebook. You can have them in a repository ready to be pulled down for potential model builds or training. And we also have SageMaker Clarify to detect bias and explain model behavior and identify features of importance. And SageMaker will do this out of the box. We also have support for distributed training. So again, adding the ability to do parallel processing to PyTorch and TensorFlow training scripts. This is more so for deep learning models across GPUs doing training, and even Edge Manager. So optimizing models for edge devices and edge hardware, right? So they can be able to run and be deployed across a fleet of edge devices. So again, SageMaker is really becoming sort of the hub for machine learning, especially with that studio environment. So again, I recommend any customer leveraging machine learning to check out SageMaker Studio, and I'm sure you will not be disappointed. Okay, so this is just SageMaker Trainium. We have some custom hardware acceleration chips for ML training. So again, for deep learning, anyone using deep learning, stay tuned for this one. It's coming out later in 2021. Again, another more accelerators for EC2 for deep learning models. Again, this is also coming soon. All right. So Amazon Lookout. So Amazon Lookout is a new service. It allows you to send time series data to AWS and will detect and alert abnormalities, right? So this is really good for manufacturing customers, whether you're in insurance, you're doing telematics, or even threat detection data, right? I mean, this has a barrage of use cases where we'll handle the ML anomaly detection. All you do is feed data into AWS. It connects into 19 different data sources, S3, CloudWatch, Redshift, RDS, and even SaaS applications. So ERP, so CRMs like Salesforce and others, they can provide data into Lookout, and we can detect anomalies from that data. So again, this is going to bring a barrage of use cases that customers, that are already working with, even within the beta phase. All right, AWS Monotron. So AWS Monotron is an AWS design equipment sensor. So this is another IoT play. And it allows you to, essentially send equipment data into AWS, right? So things like temperature, vibrations, etc. So again, this is very big for manufacturing customers, and we'll build the models to detect those those anomalies, and we can also predict equipment failure, right? So again, managed offerings, I recommend all the time. Try them out. If you have data, or if you have a use case, let's just see how it works. But again, this is another value add for customers who are looking to, again, get quickly to insights around predictions without having to do the heavy lifting, right? We have the sensors with this intelligence already built into it. And it also comes with the mobile app. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Okay. So AWS Panorama, and this is Zach's favorite. He talks about it all the time. I have no idea why. He knows nothing about it. But this is a physical appliance, and it comes with the AWS SDK installed. This allows you to process local camera feeds and apply ML computer vision. So this is good, for a lot of use cases, especially now with COVID. A lot of companies are trying to make sure that they can monitor, individuals wearing masks or, social distancing, etc. This does object detection, activity recognition. So really interesting. I mean, this is, again, the use cases are endless with this. It can be for manufacturing. It could be for pretty much anything. But again, another managed offering with ML baked into it. All right. That was machine learning. Let me check on the time. Okay. I have about 15 minutes, 20 minutes. So let's talk about databases quickly. So RDS service delivery partners, we have a new partner program for customers specifically to help move databases into into the cloud with specific database engine expertise. So again, I recommend any customer that has, let's say, a SQL Server footprint or Oracle Teradata, etc. You're looking to move. Highly recommend you check out the new partner program. We have specific expertise for your use cases. All right, let's talk about Amazon Aurora. So Aurora Serverless, this was our custom database solution, if you will, providing 10% of the cost of the commercial database with the same or more power. From a performance standpoint, we basically just made it more cost effective. It scales a lot faster now, so thousands of fractions in a second. And it's fine grained, right? So we've essentially just made it work better for you as a customer. So less for you to do, but more for you to consume if you're already using it. All right, so this is an interesting one. I want to talk about Battlefish for a second. So Battlefish for Aurora Postgres is what we created. I'm sorry, let me go to the next slide. So Battlefish is what we created to help customers who have SQL Server, right? And they want to leverage open source engine to rid themselves of licensing costs over time. So what this is it's a middleware that we created that translates your SQL and allows it to run against a Postgres database engine. Now, really where this fits in is that this gives customers some comfort if they're migrating off of a commercial database to not have to do it in a one shot. You can continue to leverage it as is, use Battlefish from a middleware perspective, and then you can work on the migration, either internally with the partner, AWS, etc. But again, this just makes the migration a little bit easier. So it's not just a one shot, but you sort of can see the value through Postgres, through Battlefish, and then you'll be able to actually go forward with a potential migration. This one has gotten a lot of attention from customers because, again, customers with end of licensing situations with Microsoft, this has really helped them move into the cloud and, of course, rid themselves of additional and overhead costs. So highly recommend, trying this service out if it is applicable. All right, so let's talk about DynamoDB for a split second. So we have support for what we call, I think it's pronounced Partyql. I'll just go with that. So Partyql provides SQL compatibility queries across multiple data sources, right? Containing structured data, semi-structured data, and nested data. It's widely used internally at Amazon, and now it's a part of DynamoDB. And we use it with a lot of services behind the scenes. So this actually supports SQL. So you can use SQL against DynamoDB, which is interesting, right? Because it's a NoSQL data store. But again, this makes it easier for customers to sort of use SQL, right, where they're comfortable to use the benefit of a NoSQL database, right? So from a performance standpoint, throughput, you'll take advantage of NoSQL, but as far as your logic, you can maintain a subset of your SQL, your business logic, right? So again, making it easy for customers to sort of take advantage of the new and modern while not forcing them to come all the way over until they're ready. Okay, analytics. Let's see, Tom. Okay, we're halfway through. Okay, so analytics. Let's see. So for analytics, we have EMR Studio. So this is on public review. Similar to Sagemaker Studio, it's an IDE for the big data experts. So for those who like Elastic MapReduce, you now have an IDE where you can install custom libraries, kernels, collaborate with code, integrate with GitHub, Bitbucket, the whole nine, right? So this is essentially a nerd out for all of the big data experts. As well as you can run EMR and EKS now. So for those who are using Kubernetes, you can now run those EMR jobs on your existing Kubernetes clusters, right? So again, making it easier to integrate the big data with platforms that are gaining a lot of traction like Kubernetes. Let's see, Glue Elastic Views. I like this one a lot. So Glue Elastic Views, it allows you to replicate a data source as a materialized view to a separate destination, right? So what this means is if I have data, let's just say in RDS, I can replicate that data to DynamoDB with Glue Elastic Views, and it handles the synchronization. So let's say I have a web app that I want to use data for, but the data is in RDS and RDBMS. I could use Glue Elastic Views, have a NoSQL database that's used for my web app. So I take advantage of that ease of communication, but I still have the source of record in RDS, and we'll handle the synchronization. So we'll keep the target table updated. So there's no coding required. We handle all of the translation on the back end. So really this allows you to have data that's in one place and you don't have to stress yourself with trying to remap it into a second destination. This can really help how you provide business intelligence to disparate teams within your LOBs, right? So again, I highly recommend customers try it. It's in preview. We're always taking feedback. So again, if you try it out, you have some things you'd like to see added, please feel free to contact me directly. Databrew. Databrew is a data visualization tool, right? It's a no-code platform. So you can transform data and visualize it with no coding required. So there's 2,250 pre-built transformations. I should have brought a screenshot on this deck. But it's basically a GUI, and you can manipulate data just by clicking buttons. It's configuration, there's logic already in the GUI itself, and you can run that against data in this dashboard. So it's kind of like Excel in a way, but it's like Excel on steroids, right? And it really allows you to prepare data as a person that has no coding experience a lot easier, right? So again, all right. So Redshift, let's see. I think the big one with Redshift, in my opinion, is federated queries. So you can do queries from RDS and Aurora to Redshift, right? So it's interesting. You can have a query that goes against and joins data from Redshift and Aurora that comes back to Redshift. I'm sorry, you can have a query that joins data from RDS and Aurora MySQL that comes back to Redshift. So you don't have to bring the data to Redshift. You can query from Redshift across an entirely different database platform with federated queries. So this is gonna help customers not have to always move all the data within one platform. You can use federated queries to pull data as you need be for a particular use case, right? So again, making it easier for you to essentially get your job done. Another big one is Aqua. So this is an advanced hardware acceleration cache. It's behind the scenes completely, but it makes up for 10 times faster query performance than other cloud data warehouses. And it's available with the RA3 node types. This is our managed storage definition. This is the RA3 is the specific node type, right? But it has that built into it. So you'll see a lot more performance when you're leveraging that specific configuration. All right. Let's see. So as far as this side, it's pretty straightforward. Won't really draw the horn on this one. If the only really takeaway here is you can move clusters between AZs now. I think that's a big one. I had some customers that wanted to be able to move their assets across, so that it makes it easy to port them now. And we have smaller RA3 node types. So at first, they were pretty big, and obviously that comes with cost. So we've given customers, smaller node types to sort of help customers with smaller use cases still take advantage of the power of Redshift. All right, Health Lake. So this is a new health HIPAA eligible service to make sense of health data. So think of it as a healthcare data lake. This is still in preview, so it's still being developed. There's a lot of feedback being brought into it. It's really heavily used in public sector companies that do research. But again, for anyone that is in healthcare, this provides you an easy way to stand up a data lake that is already HIPAA compliant, and it can allow you to make sense of that data relatively quickly. All right, let's do a quick time check. Okay. End user compute. Let's see. I'm gonna skip over this one actually. Not really much to share here. I want to get to some other ones.
Hey, Corey.
Yeah.
I know we've covered a lot of material. Is there any questions from the audience based on what we've shared, or is there anything that jumps out that we'd like to kind of walk through or discuss a little more in detail before we move on? Come on, team. I know there's a question out there.
Justin's got some Uber Eats gift cards to sling out there for anybody with a question.
Yeah, I don't know if I have questions at the moment. I will once I confer with team. There's several of these that will be useful.
Not right in the middle of the recap, but down the road, I wouldn't mind seeing a little more detail on the change in fleet manager at assistance manager, and some of that detailed auditing and reporting, and some live view of implementation on that, and how that can be applied to at scale, and detailed use cases on that.
Okay.
Great, thanks for the input.
And we may be wanting to talk about some of the lookout technology later this year.
Okay, awesome. We'll definitely keep that in mind. Okay, so we have Audit Manager. So Audit Manager allows you to continuously audit your AWS usage, and it simplifies how you assess risk and compliance against industry standards. So it just makes it easier for you to baseline your AWS configurations against compliance and regulatory standards, without having to sort of do that off the side of your desk, right? So just consolidating all of the requirements and using the actual usage of your account to sort of give you a viewpoint of how you stack against different compliance regulations, right? So again, just bringing that visibility easier, closer to customers. And again, I apologize for the fire hose, but I think this is the best way to kind of get it out there. And again, definitely open to dive deep. If you could just jot down anything that was of interest to you, we're definitely happy to sort of, bring some of that to the table. All right, so let's see. Okay, cost management. From a cost management perspective, not much to go over here. We've done a lot of optimization with Lambda, like I said. We've decreased the cost of EMR graviton-based instances, anomaly detection. So this is just general cost optimization that we've done behind the scenes. Nothing really to take advantage of. It's just going to be inherited within your usage. So let's talk about containers. EKS Anywhere is an interesting one. So for customers that want to run EKS on-prem, so you want to use the APIs for Elastic Kubernetes service on-prem or outside of AWS, on your own VMs or bare metal servers, we provide a control plane and a single pane of glass for those environments. And we also have an open distribution for EKS that will be provided on GitHub. So now you can bring that on-prem and take advantage of the same tools while not actually having to be in AWS, right? So giving you flexibility just to take advantage of the capability itself. We've also added increasing logging for Fargate. So Fargate is how you can deploy serverless containers within ECS, our Elastic Container Service. So just giving added visibility there. Let's see. I think that's pretty much it to focus on. But again, if you see anything on the screen that is of interest, feel free to jot it down, and I will be sure to follow up with you. The same applies with ECS. So EKS is Elastic Kubernetes Service, ECS, Elastic Container Service. So same applies there, open distribution. You can run it anywhere on AWS, on-prem. And we now support cross-region replication with container images. So now you can replicate your container images across regions now. You don't have to create them from the ground up. So again, making it easy to port them for either a DR scenario or multi-region based application. And Circuit Breaker is pretty cool. It's in preview now, but it supports rollback of unhealthy services without manual intervention. So it supports Fargate and EC2 services on ECS, right? So making your production activities, your runbooks, hardening the way you can, react in certain scenarios. Batch support for Fargate. You can submit batch jobs to serverless Fargate containers. No need to manage EC2 VMs or AMIs. And it also supports Spot for Fargate. So Spot is just the marketplace version of compute where we give you a tremendous discount because it is ephemeral in nature and it may be recalled. But again, you have batch support to run those jobs on serverless containers. So no need to manage VMs anymore for those batch jobs. We have a managed version of Prometheus. It's a fully managed Prometheus compatible container monitoring solution. So no infrastructure to manage, out of the box integration with ECS and EKS. So you can immediately take advantage of it. And if you are using Prometheus, already, then you'll have a similar experience with the managed version. And you can use it for AWS and external container workloads as well. Talked about Proton already in the previous, in the earlier slides, so I'll skip over that one. Let's see, talked about that, we'll skip over that. Talked about that, talked about EKS. Okay, I think I talked about this one already, but again, image support, so you can run images in Lambda without having to natively code in Lambda. You can bring Docker Hub images or images that you author within ECS and use that to bootstrap a Lambda function itself. So making it easier for you to take advantage of serverless. Talked about that, we'll skip over that one. All right, so we're nearing the end. Let's see. Amazon location. This is in preview. So this is interesting. Businesses can use location data to better engage their market to their customers. So I'll give you an example. This location service can trigger an event that prompts a notification to a cafe when a customer who ordered a coffee on their mobile app is nearby, right? And then the cafe staff can then prepare the order in time. And similarly, retailers can use geo-marketing to send out discount codes or digital flyers to customers who are near their store. So if, I'm walking down the street, and I'm walking past one of your brick and mortars, I can use this service to be able to locate you and send you direct marketing, right? This is also good for asset tracking. So you can help understand the current and historical locations of products, personnel, and infrastructure. You can use this for asset tracking to optimize remote staffing, to secure en route shipments, as well as maximize dispatch efficiency. So again, this is a managed location service. You can add it within any application. You don't sacrifice data security or user privacy. It's in preview now at GA. It will include routing capabilities. So stay tuned if you have a use case, but I think there's a barrage of use cases where, manufacturing, retail, you name it. I mean, there's anywhere that has physical infrastructure, this would be of interest if you're looking to, obtain and have targeted marketing towards your customers. Developer guru, DevOps guru, I'm sorry. I think this was, okay, this is different than the code guru, I'm sorry. Yeah, so this indicates behaviors that may indicate potential application performance problems. It's still in GA, so it's still being fleshed out, but more to come on this one. We're still taking a lot of feedback from customers to flesh out, the robustness of it. Pretty straightforward. SDK for JavaScript 3. Code Guru. This one has been out for some time. It allows you to run this against your source control repositories to help determine expensive code, is what we call it, right? Code that can be rewritten in a more optimized fashion, code that may have memory leakage, optimizing heap profiling, heap summary, and just usage of, memory and the heap within your application. And last but not least, we have Cloud Shell. So Cloud Shell is a browser-based shell in the console, so it has the SDK loaded. So I know sometimes customers have trouble bootstrapping their local machine with the proper requirements to use the CLI. So the AWS Cloud Shell will allow you to already have that installed, and then it already inherits your credentials as well. So if you're in your account already, when you're using it, then it already has your credentials, your profiles are already installed, and you can easily just go in and start leveraging its capability. And I think there's actually one last one, I'm sorry. So the last one actually is Fault Injection Simulator. So this is a chaos engineering managed offering. So similar to how Netflix has their Chaos Monkey, where they can sort of do stress testing against their application to understand bottlenecks. We're taking a similar approach with Fault Injection Simulator, where customers can have added visibility to uncover bottlenecks and issues within their application to give it a real world sort of feel. So instead of you having to develop custom tests, you can leverage this service to provide that capability out of the box. And we have a lot of templates and things already pre-baked that we'll be offering customers as a part of this offering. So I know that was a lot. Looks like I'm right at time. That is it. So I again apologize for the fire hose. Normally the model is demos, etc., but I really thought that it would be beneficial to bring this in front of customers just to see if there is any value or potential benefit of any of the services, because it's really hard to sort of digest it on your own. If there's anything you jotted down you want to deep dive on later, just feel free to send it to myself, Zach, or Jeremy. We'll be sure to get the right folks in front of you to to be able to give you a deeper dive. And on that note, that's all I have, Jeremy.
All right, awesome, Corey. Thanks a lot. So before we wind down, does anybody have any questions for Corey? We jotted down some notes earlier about some of the topics that you guys would like to deep dive on in the future, and that's certainly things that we can use to work toward developing some of our upcoming content. Any other ideas or requests while we've got Mr. Harris here?
Yeah, actually, you actually skipped over one topic that the AWS Connect stuff. We are actually implementing Connect this year. I didn't know, is that slide deck available somewhere? Grab it, or is there just a quick link to the AWS site for all the reInvent stuff?
Yeah, I can provide this deck in totality. Yeah, I'll be happy to send this out to everyone.
Great.
Yeah, I had a quick question about the Amazon Lookout. So that mentioned that it has 19 different data sources. One was mentioned Salesforce. Is there you have an overview of kind of what data in Salesforce would be available for that?
So from what I know at this time, based on where it is in its maturity, it has to be any time series data is applicable. So that's really the use case of it, is that it's a time series ingestion platform. So it will detect anomalies based on the any time series data that you ingest, right? So that's the use case as of now. It may expand in the future, but currently it's merely any sort of time series data you can pull from Salesforce would be applicable to leverage Lookout.
Awesome, thank you. And sorry, one other quick question for the, I think it was the Glue Elastic View.
Yeah.
I think I saw RDS and Elasticsearch on there, but what were the other?
The Elastic Views, let's see. Elastic Views had, give me 1 second. Looks like it is RDS, Redshift, Elasticsearch, Dynamodb, S3, Amazon Aurora, and I believe as of now that is all. But I can also double check on that. I can double check on that.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Yep.
I had a quick question.
Sure.
Does Audit Manager work in conjunction with the config rules pushed out by like Security Hub, or does it work for on CIS benchmarks using a completely separate mechanism?
So it's a combination of both. It uses data from a configuration standpoint, but yes, it does use the CIS benchmarks as well as a way to baseline your AWS usage and configurations against those benchmarks.